This is the story of what allegedly happened backstage at Saturday Night Live's most historic episode, when a Nicki Minaj joke that never made it to air reportedly sent Cardi B into a full rage that left equipment destroyed, producers shaken, and the internet completely divided. January 31st, 2026, SNL aired episode number 1000, and Cardi B was the musical guest for that milestone night. But according to sources who spoke to TMZ, what happened behind those studio doors had nothing to do with music and everything to do with a feud that has been burning for nearly a decade. Real quick, before we get into it, if you are already invested in this story, hit that like button right now because this one goes deep and we are going to need your energy for all of it.
Before any of the backstage chaos, we need to understand what kind of night this was. 1,000 episodes of Saturday Night Live, a show that first aired in 1975 and has spent over 50 years on NBC without going anywhere. Studio 8H at 30 Rockefeller Plaza has hosted every single one of those episodes, and on January 31st, 2026, the show reached a number that no other late-night variety program in American history has reached. Alexander Skarsgård took the stage as host, and Cardi B walked in as the musical guest for the occasion. And that booking was not accidental. Nobody stumbles into the musical guest slot on SNL's 1000th episode. That selection is deliberate, and the message it sends is simple. Right now, in this exact moment, this artist represents where pop culture is. Cardi delivered 2 performances that night, Bodega Batty and Time, the second of which featured Dominican artist El Prodigio. She also appeared on camera in a sketch called The Immigrant Dad Talk Show with SNL cast member Marcelo Hernandez, getting laughs alongside Colin Jost and Michael Che anchoring Weekend Update just a few feet away. On screen, everything looked exactly right. The problem was what was happening somewhere the cameras could not see.
If you are not subscribed yet, what are you even doing here? Go hit that button and come back. We will wait. 3 days before SNL's 1000th episode aired, something happened in Washington, D.C. that put Nicki Minaj right at the center of the news cycle. January 28, 2026, the Treasury Department hosted what it called the Trump Accounts Summit at the Andrew W. Mellon Auditorium, and Nicki Minaj walked out onto that stage alongside Donald Trump. This was not her first public move in the direction of the MAGA world. Nicki had already appeared with Erica Kirk, given speeches on Trump's behalf, and sat down for a conversation on Katie Miller's podcast. A Politico report that surfaced the Monday before the SNL episode also revealed that Nicki had been benefiting from MAGA social media bot activity since publicly aligning herself with Trump's movement. So by January 28th, 3 days before showtime, Nicki standing next to the President of the United States at a Treasury Department event was fresh, documented, and very public. That gave Colin Jost and Michael Che exactly the kind of material they write jokes about every single week. Here is what matters most about that planned Weekend Update joke. It was about Nicki Minaj, and Nicki Minaj only. Cardi B's name was not in it. Their feud was not in it. The joke targeted Nicki's decision to stand on that stage with Trump just 72 hours earlier, which was a legitimate news event that had already been covered by major outlets. That is the joke Cardi B allegedly overheard from backstage during dress rehearsal. And according to TMZ's sources, hearing Nicki Minaj's name in that context was all it took. Everything you are about to hear comes from a TMZ report published February 25, 2026, sourced from unnamed production insiders. As of the date this video was made, neither Cardi B nor SNL has issued any statement confirming or denying these claims. This section covers allegations only. During dress rehearsal, Cardi allegedly caught the planned Nicki Minaj joke from somewhere backstage, and sources told TMZ that her reaction was immediate. She allegedly threatened to walk off the show entirely. Not walk off a sketch, not pull back from the performance, but physically leave SNL's 1000th episode with millions of viewers waiting at home. That alone would have been enough to make this story.
But that was not where it ended. According to those same sources, Cardi then threw her phone directly at a backstage TV monitor, and what came next is the detail that sent this story to every corner of the internet. She allegedly stormed into a producer's office and punched a screen repeatedly until it broke, and the broken screen had to be replaced before dress rehearsal could even move forward. The crew members who witnessed it were reportedly left, in the exact words TMZ's sources used, unsettled and scared. The joke did not air. Whatever Jost and Che had planned for Weekend Update that night involving Nicki Minaj never reached the live broadcast, and that specific detail is verifiable because the broadcast record is public. The joke was gone from the live show. One other thing stands out here. The story broke because someone inside SNL's production talked to TMZ. That kind of leak does not happen by accident, and observers who cover the entertainment industry have noted that it likely signals that at least some of the show's staff were unhappy with how that evening went. Okay, pause. If you are watching this without being subscribed, Cardi would allegedly throw a phone at you for that, so just subscribe and protect yourself. Hearing Nicki Minaj's name allegedly sent Cardi B into this kind of reaction. And to understand that, you have to understand everything that came before January 31st, 2026. Around 2017, what had been low-level tension between the two rappers broke into the open through pointed lyrics, subtweets, and social media exchanges that fans on both sides were tracking like a sport. That period was tense, but it was manageable. September 2018 was the moment it became something else entirely. New York Fashion Week, the Harper's Bazaar Icons Party. Both Cardi B and Nicki Minaj in the same room. And at some point during that evening, Cardi threw a high heel at Nicki. A high heel at a fashion party. Cardi walked away from that confrontation with a bruise on her face, and the images and footage from that night became some of the most documented moments in modern celebrity history. Most people figured that had to be the ceiling. Both women had made their points, the world had seen it, and surely things would de-escalate from there. They did not de-escalate. Late 2025 brought a renewed explosion on X, timed closely to Cardi releasing an album called Am I the Drama, a title that was never not going to read as a provocation. Both rappers went at each other publicly, and the exchange moved in a direction that crossed a line most people recognize, regardless of which side they support. Children got brought in. In October of 2025, Nicki directed racially charged insults at Cardi's 7-year-old daughter, Culture, a child who is 7 years old and has nothing to do with any of this. Nicki did eventually post a public apology, but Cardi described that apology as backhanded, and the gesture did nothing to cool the situation down. If anything, it confirmed to Cardi that this feud had permanently entered territory where nothing was off limits, not even her kids. 3 months after that, Cardi walked into Studio 8H for the biggest television performance of her career, and somewhere backstage, she allegedly heard a joke with Nicki's name in it. This feud has more chapters than most Netflix series. Like this video so the algorithm knows you are keeping up with it.
Belcalis Almanzar grew up in the Bronx, turned 33 years old while all of this was happening, and built one of the most improbable careers in modern music. But before any of that happened, she was on Love and Hip Hop, a reality show where cameras followed her through everyday life and documented her in confrontations that, looking back now, read like an early preview of the behavior she has been associated with ever since. Throwing things in anger, escalating instead of walking away, responding to situations at full volume and without a filter. Her fans have called that authenticity. Her critics have called it a pattern. Both of those readings have always coexisted, and both become relevant the moment you try to understand how a backstage moment at 30 Rockefeller Plaza allegedly ended with a destroyed screen and a production crew that did not feel safe. What also matters is the shape of Cardi's life at that specific moment in January 2026. The Little Miss Drama Tour, her first major headlining arena tour, was running at the same time. A split from NFL player Stephon Diggs had recently become public, and reporting on that separation described complicated personal circumstances. None of those pressures justify destroying property, if that is what happened, but they give you a clearer picture of the person walking into that studio that night, carrying everything she was carrying.
TMZ published its report on February 25, 2026, and the conversation that followed went in completely opposite directions almost immediately. Cardi's defenders came out with a specific argument. Nicki Minaj spent months on social media attacking Cardi, brought a 7-year-old child into the feud using racially charged language, and then posted an apology that Cardi herself described as backhanded. Now, SNL, on its single most-watched episode in years, was preparing to put Nicki's name in a nationally televised joke. For people in Cardi's corner, her alleged reaction was not irrational. It was the reaction of a mother who had watched her daughter get targeted and who broke when she sensed it was about to happen again, this time on a stage with no escape. On the other side, the argument was equally sharp. The joke was about Nicki Minaj standing next to the President of the United States at a government event. That is a news story. That is exactly the kind of thing Weekend Update was built to address. And SNL has a culture that treats everyone as fair game, regardless of who is offended. The idea that a guest could allegedly destroy equipment and threaten to leave, and that the result was a joke getting pulled from a live broadcast, raises genuine questions about whether certain people can operate above the rules that apply to everyone else.
A third reading circulated as well, mostly among industry observers. The theory was that Cardi's demand to pull the joke was not just emotional, but strategic, a deliberate move to make sure SNL's milestone episode stayed focused on her and did not hand Nicki any airtime on a night that was supposed to belong to Cardi entirely. None of those interpretations have been confirmed. All three are still active in the conversation. Team Cardi, Team Nicki, or Team Mind Your Business. Whatever team you are on, subscribe to stay updated because this story is absolutely not done. At the center of this story is a Nicki Minaj joke that allegedly never aired because of what reportedly happened in a producer's office backstage. But zoom out a little and three much larger conversations come into focus. The first is whether the Cardi and Nicki feud has moved beyond entertainment and into territory where real people, including children, are getting hurt. Culture is 7 years old. That is not gossip. That is a minor child who got targeted with racially charged language in a public feud she has no part in. And the fact that the feud has reached that level is something that deserves more than just a reaction tweet.
The second conversation is about political realignment inside hip-hop. Nicki Minaj appearing at a Trump Treasury Department event after months of public MAGA alignment has created real divisions in communities that have historically moved together. The Politico report on MAGA bots boosting Nicki's social media presence since she publicly tied herself to Trump is not a small detail. It is part of a documented political strategy, and late-night television noticed. The third conversation is about access and creative freedom. Late-night comedy has functioned as a space where political commentary reaches people who might not otherwise engage with it, and the idea that a guest could allegedly force a joke off the air, through whatever means, is a story about who gets to decide what gets said on national television. What makes the SNL incident feel different from other celebrity moments is that comedian Trevor Noah also made a joke about Nicki's Trump alignment at the 2026 Grammy Awards, and that joke aired without incident. No walkout, no destroyed equipment, just a joke that landed and moved on. The difference between those two moments tells you that the SNL situation was not about the existence of the joke, it was about Cardi B being in the building. As of February 27, 2026, neither Cardi B nor anyone at SNL has made an official statement. No one who was in that building that night has gone on record. The allegations rest entirely on unnamed sources who spoke to TMZ. The cost of any damaged equipment has not been reported anywhere. No formal complaint or fine from NBC or SNL's production has been publicly confirmed.
What has been confirmed, Cardi B was the musical guest on January 31st, 2026. She performed, the episode aired, and the Nicki Minaj joke does not appear anywhere in the live broadcast record. The story, published by TMZ on February 25th, has since spread across every major celebrity and entertainment outlet. Cardi has never been someone who stays quiet when she believes she has a point to make, and Nicki has the same instinct. SNL, for its part, has its own history of circling back to address controversies in its own way and on its own timeline. None of the main players have spoken. That silence is unlikely to last. If this story has you spiraling a little, just know the like button is right there, and clicking it is free therapy. Go ahead.
A Nicki Minaj joke planned for Weekend Update on SNL's 1000th episode allegedly triggered a backstage meltdown that left equipment broken, a crew shaken, and a joke permanently cut from the live broadcast. That is the headline, but the headline is not the whole story. Pull back far enough, and what you are looking at is nearly a decade of accumulated history between two women who have never resolved anything. A fashion party brawl in September 2018 that should have been the peak of the conflict. A 2025 social media war that brought a 7-year-old child into the crossfire. A public apology that landed as an insult. A political realignment that made Nicki Minaj the subject of national coverage just 3 days before Cardi B was set to perform on the biggest night of her mainstream television career. And then a joke with a name in it, overheard from backstage, on the one night Cardi had every reason to want nothing to go wrong.
If the allegations are true, destroying property and leaving production crew members feeling unsafe is not a defensible response to any of that history, no matter how real the pain behind it is. That part is straightforward. What is not straightforward is the full weight of everything Cardi allegedly heard in that moment when a name she cannot separate from years of damage came through a speaker backstage at Studio 8H. This story is still developing. Both women are still in the public eye. SNL is still on the air, and the conversation about what celebrity feuds are allowed to cost the people around them is not going away. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this one is genuinely complicated and there are more than 2 valid ways to look at it. And if you want to follow the next chapter of this story as it unfolds, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss it. Subscribe button is right there. 1 click, you have survived this entire video. You have earned it. See you in the next one.